let's crash your party.
All right.
And be here today. I know you're going all over the place, but the idea of this whole podcast and this conversation and the videoing and everything we're doing is just really to be able to talk to you and understand more about your story. We see the boats that go in the water and all that kind of stuff, and I think that there's, at least for me personally, selfishly, like I want to come and talk about my boat. So this is how I get to do it. But, I guess it's a good starting place. Can you talk, so you grew up in Wilmington area?
Yep. Yeah, we lived here, my parents moved here when I was 10.
Okay.
So this is my home. This is what I know.
And what did mom and dad do growing up?
My dad was a general contractor, plumbing contractor, and my mom did his books and,
Helped out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so you went to school around here. Did you go to university around this area?
Yeah, I graduated from Laney High School, and then I went to UNCW for a couple of years and realized that I was making more money doing plumbing repair than I could with my computer science degree I was working on, so I quit going to college and started plumbing contracting.
And was it like initially your dad would just drag you along to plumbing jobs or did you have an interest in that space?
Yeah, well, my dad had me going to jobs with him from the time I was about 12 years old on, and I had my state plumbing license when I was 16 years old. I was the youngest licensed plumber in the state of North Carolina for many, many years. And then kind of grew from plumbing into utilities. And then I took a job for a company and as a general superintendent running their utilities division and ended up running the whole company for 15 years.
Wow. Commercial space?
Doing site development.
Okay. So like
roads, paving, grading, water, sewer, storm drain, that kind of stuff. And in the meantime, I picked up the hobby of offshore fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And
did you start going out here, or did you?
Out of here, yeah. I bought my first boat, and it was a 20-foot wellcraft.
Okay.
And then shortly I outgrew it, and I bought a 25 Hyder Sport that had been in a car wreck. Mm-hmm. It was just a hull, and I put it back together and went fishing with it for many years. Commercial grouper fish, did offshore by myself, go wahoo fishing on my Hyder Sport. Just got consumed with it, and then I caught my first marlin, and I was done.
I think that's kind of what I think. First blue marlin for me was when something changed, like something clicked. But were you just fun fishing and just got into it and just kept escalating with that?
It kept escalating, and then I was helping a friend of mine build himself a house on the weekends, and I told him, I said, hey, I really want to get a bigger boat.
Of course.
Yeah, and so we started scheming on how we were going to buy an old Bertram and fix it up. And we found one down in Texas, and I started putting numbers to it as to what it was going to cost to get it the way I wanted it. Mm-hmm. And I remember just like it was yesterday, I was up on the scaffold hanging siding that next weekend, and I told Bobby, I said, we're going to have $150,000 tied up in a 35-year-old boat that we won't be able to sell for more than 50 no matter what. Mm-hmm. And he's, it'll be great, it'll be good, da, 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 da. And I'm like, I said, man, I bet for $150,000 I can build a boat. Mm-hmm. He said, you can't build a boat. And I was like, you just watch me. And that was the beginning.
Now, were you married at the time?
Oh, it was, yeah.
And what was the wife saying at that point in time?
Oh, she's my ex-wife now, that tells you anything.
and so you're living here in this backyard. You start building this boat.
I built a shed in my backyard to build the boat in.
And what's the definition of a shed in that situation?
Well, this one was 30 feet by 40 feet.
That's a good
Concrete floor. It was a nice garage. I even had air conditioning.
contractor.
I even had air conditioning.
Okay.
So.
Okay. And you're just. Now, I think I read at some point in time you're drawing up plans and trying to tinker around them. Was it just finding your way?
Well, I went. I had rowed on a bunch of different boats through the years, and I knew this boat did this and this boat did that, and I started sneaking around boat yards, and I developed a technique to measure the bottom of a boat. And I knew I'd rowed on this boat, and I measured that boat, and then I'd go back and draw it. And after stealing measurements off of several, 50 or 60 boats that I knew how they rowed, I started trying to formulate my own theory as to why each one did what it did, and come up with a combination that I thought would do what I wanted it to do. And once I got that part figured out, and I had read every book you could read on boat design and boat construction techniques, and I started drawing, and I drew probably 100 different iterations before I said, all right, this is what I want to do, I think. And I built a scale model of the hull and carried it to Jarrett Bay and introduced myself to Randy Ramsey, and so what do you think?
So, which I want to talk about that for a second, but before that, you're literally looking, and what year was this?
When I went to see Randy, it was 1997.
So 96, 97 time period.
That's where I'm developing what I'm going to build, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you're the crazy guy drawing out all the stuff and probably tinkering and dreaming a little bit. Were you always kind of a dreamer and just go, or was it stumble into some situations and figure out what was?
I was always, I see things in full 3D conceptually, and I, pretty well could wrap my head around how about anything's done. I'm really good at reverse engineering stuff.
Were you a tinkerer?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And no formal training right at this point in time, just literally playing around. And you get the goal, because in 96 it's not like today, right? It's not like you can necessarily creep on someone the same way you can today. So you knew of him just from...
Well, the guy that had told me that I couldn't do it, my good friend Bobby Brown, knew Randy well, because Bobby was the chairman of the Marlin tournament.
Okay.
And so me and Bobby rode up to Jarrett Bay together, and Bobby facilitated the introduction.
And how was that first meeting? Was that like...
Oh, it was good.
Yeah.
Randy was, and like Randy said, he said, yeah, he'd be pretty shallow-minded not to offer help, because every builder on the east coast of North Carolina had offered him help when he was getting started.
Yeah, I think there's a theme of like this community, which is truly a community, can be the biggest, fiercest competitors, but at the same time lend a helping hand to the fellow builder.
Oh yeah.
And I think you see it even in the earlier days, in the things that I'm reading about and learning about, talking to people about, is like, kind of the same thing. Steal some people's ideas and some general direction of things, but put your own flair and flavor onto it, and obviously build the best boat you can build, and let the rest of it speak for yourself. So 97, you talked to Randy, and when do you start buying lumber and
the day after I talked to Randy. Yeah.
And how long was that process from start to finish?
2 years, doing it nights and weekends, and we were in the water. So in 1999, I had a boat floating.
And you were still full-time job.
I had a full-time job.
And just wearing yourself out at both ends.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever think about quitting in the middle of that, and or was it you're going to go and build this boat?
Oh, I was going to build that boat, and I swore that I would never build another one.
Really, was that?
It's way too much like work.
Just the amount of labor.
Labor. I mean, it's just so labor intensive.
Did you get help from the contracting world while you were building, or did you pretty much just?
I had one good friend of mine who was there just about every night that I worked on it. He was there. I had a couple other friends that showed up periodically, But it was mostly the two of us building.
Cold ones in life and just trying to make it.
There was way more Budweiser than Capoxy used in the project.
That's probably the only way you can do it on the first boat I got on that. So you finished in '99, and then
I quit my job and went full-time charter fishing.
And why was that? Just
because I'd spent 2 years of my life building this boat, I was going to use it.
Fair enough. And so you started charter fishing on that boat and loved it?
Loved it. Running charters out of the dockside restaurant there at Wrightsville Beach. And, I had good friends that had been running charters for years. And we started, they helped me get going. And, just like I said, it was, I think the first season, I run 57 trips the first year. About half offshore and half Spanish mackerel.
Yeah.
And then the second year, I run over 180 trips. But
that's not a bad year at all.
Well, 57 of them were offshore, and the rest of them were Spanish mackerel trips. Where during the peak of the summer, you can actually get 3 half-day trips in a day.
Yeah.
You pick them up early. You split it into 3-4 hour trips instead of.
Which I've gone out. Living here, I tend to always go to Oregon Inlet when I live in Raleigh and commute over. And every once in a while, the thought of friends will hit me up and say, "Hey, we're going out to Wilmington, Wrightsville Beach," and I just don't tend to do that. Was that hard getting customers fighting between different areas, or did you have it?
You had to appeal to the people that were here vacationing anyways, and that's why the Spanish mackerel trip. Something they could do in a half a day, so it was easy. We had a deal. We pick up at one of the local resorts there at Wrightsville Beach, pick them up on their dock, and lots of times it was a 2 or 3 boat gig, where you're taking a big group out. So it was, just a lot of fun.
I get it. I've got 2 little kids, and my wife knows if we're in the coastal area that we're pretty much going to charter a boat and go fishing somewhere. And even, it's hard to take the little ones out here. But doing a half day or something like that would probably be much more available for folks. But do you miss the charter days now or no?
Part of me does. And in fact, I probably, if I ever retire from boat building, I'll probably go back to running charters. But probably not out of here, probably someplace warm.
Yeah, down south?
Down south.
That wouldn't be a bad living. I don't know. But so you were running charters how long? 99 to what-ish?
Well, I sold my charter boat in 2004, but I got going with I guess it was 2000. In 2000, I had another boat builder approached me about building a hull for him.
Okay.
And I built that hull, and then I went to the Miami Boat Show with another friend of mine who was building a skiff and helped him set up. And then here comes Randy, and Randy said, "Oh, I hear you built the hull for Jim. Tell me all about it." And I told him, and he said, "Well, I got a boat for you to build."
Really?
And so then that project, he said call him right after the boat show, and I did, and it had got put on hold, and so I went on back to fishing. And then Randy calls me in May and says, "Hey, you ready to build that boat?" And I'm like, "What boat?" He said, "That boat you're gonna build for me." I said, "Man, I got charters. I got charter for the Big Rock, charter for Pirates Cove. He's like, well, come see me on your lay day at the Big Rock." So I went to see him on a lay day, and he handed me a set of plans and a check. And I opened up the plans. I said, "Well, I can't build this boat." He said, "Why not?" I said, "Because it's bigger than my shed." He said, "Well, can you build it somewhere else?" And I said, "Well, I guess I could add on to the shed." He said, "Well, when can you start?" I said, "Well, after Pirates Cove, I'll build the addition onto the shed, and then I'll get started 1st of September. So I built the 42-foot Express for Jarrett Bay. That was my next project. And before I finished it, I had contract to build a 60 and a 64.
So it was a roller coaster.
It just snowballed. Was never intended.
And did you ever second guess, or did you just go?
Just go.
And those horror memories about building the first one didn't come back at all?
Well, I got smart enough to hire people to sand.
Yeah.
You know, it's when you're board sanding every day by yourself.
Beat you up.
Yeah.
Any other aspect of the build that you hated other than that?
No.
Anything you love?
I love building the structure.
Seeing it come together.
Yeah, the finish work is just it's like watching, you know, you're watching paint dry basically. You know, you smear it on, you sand it off, and it's just so excruciatingly slow. But if you want it to look like we want them to look, that's what you got to do.
Yeah. Well, there's something special about the craftsmanship because in all these boats, and it can't be rushed, I'm sure, even though it needs to be sometimes.
Yeah, you gotta. I mean, and things take time to dry, and if you use the wrong materials that might dry a little bit quicker, then they shrink and print through more, and you know, it's just it's a balancing act, you know.
Yeah. So you're just right in it. Build on the shed. How big does the shed get in the back?
I added another 20 feet onto the back, so I was 60 feet long by 30.
Like, do you think you want to stay on your property and just keep building from there?
You know, at that point, I didn't know that I'd have another project to do. You know, I was just doing what had come my way. And
so, what happens after you start getting phone calls to start building? Is it was the business aspect of it easy for you, or was it?
You know, I had managed a lot of people with the construction business that I was a superintendent for. The people aspect of it was easy. The learning the rules as far as taxes and this and that, you know, all that is something that I had to lean heavily on a CPA to get through that stuff, and I still do. I turn it over to them, let them do it.
Yeah. So you like being in the shop, which I mean, obviously here. I mean, we're
in the shop. Yeah.
We're in the shop.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still get down there today at all?
Oh yeah. Not like I used to, but I'm still a hands-on. I can, you know, show these guys
a thing
or two what to do and what not to do.
But you're also you learn CAD.
Yeah, I do. I design all the boats in 3D CAD. Yeah.
And did you ever end up going to get like more of a formal training, or has it always been pretty much self-taught and in that community kind of base?
Yeah, just self-taught, and you know, I did a project with Volvo IPSs, and you had to submit your whole file to them digitally. Mm-hmm. So then I had to learn how to draw in CAD because I'd always just done it on paper. But once I figured that out, I was like, well, man, I don't know why I hadn't done this earlier, because it's so much easier to get them fair and perfect, and you didn't have to loft out the whole boat full size to get your jigs. And
which customers gotta appreciate that. You gotta assume. You know.
Yeah, because you can render it in full 3D, and they can see what things are going to look like. It was a big step forward for me.
So when was the time where you were like, which I know you're still chartering and building and kind of building more, but when was it that the gut said like, all right, this is we got something here, and we're gonna kind of double down, because you ended up buying this space?
Yeah, I bought this land. I guess it was early 05, or no, it would have been 04, because I moved in the summer of 05, and we got the permits and built the building and moved up here.
No scary days on that, or were there a few scary days getting there?
You know, everything, the economy was going like gangbusters in 04 and 05, and so there wasn't much to be, nobody was scared of anything, and I think I was ended up being part of the problem. But
that'd be a little lucky on timing sometimes too.
Yeah, but there into 06, 07, there was some scary times then.
Yeah, I talked to some builders, and it's interesting because you see some of them that are either trying to build a business right now or are thinking about it. And, you know, it's the passion or hobby, but it's not quite the business. And I think that there's always every builder that has an established brand and business like you do. I think there's just that little something. Did you ever feel like you got to a place where it was that cadence and you feel good? I mean, I've got to imagine you're like double down, invest, go, 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 or was it always kind of that timid like?
I mean, before the economy crashed, I had put in a CNC router and bought a hydraulic trailer and, pushed the envelope a little bit, and then of course the economy crashed and I had 3 boats in the barn and one of the owners went bankrupt immediately, and so that boat got parked and was owned by the bank, and then one of the other boats was almost finished and it got shoved out the door because the one of the partners was just about bankrupt and they needed to get it out so they could sell it, and then the last boat in the barn, the guy got scared. He's like, "Oh my goodness, I'm the last one here. You're getting ready to go down, and I'm afraid my boat will go with it." So he pulled his boat out unfinished.
Really?
Yeah. So it was pretty scary time then. But
What did you do?
well, hunkered down, started developing an aspect of the business that I had never really pursued, which was repair work.
Okay.
And around here, even the repair work had dried up pretty much. But I figured out I could travel. I could go to Florida, and where there's a lot higher, as far as percentage of boats per capita. There's a lot of boats down there. And I went down there and was able to pick up repair work and service work to keep things afloat.
Were you still living up here and traveling down?
Yeah, I was traveling. I was
little one at the time? Did you have a little one at the time?
Little enough. I mean, probably 10.
So I've got to imagine that was a pretty tricky.
Yeah, I mean, traveling and be gone for 6, sometimes 8 weeks, and then home for 2 or 3 days, and then gone again. But I had to figure out a way to pay the mortgage here and the mortgage at house, and keep everything going, and we survived.
How was getting that first boat back after doing the repair journey? Did you just epiphany run into somebody, or was it? How hard was it getting that new construction business back on?
I took one of the boats, the one that was almost finished when the economy crashed, ended up taking it to the Lauderdale Boat Show as the demo boat for the Zeus Drive, and taking people for rides. And I met a lot of people there for that project, and took this one gentleman from Washington State, him and his wife, for a ride, and because he was pretty much said he was going to buy this particular production boat, and the people had told him that he ought to go check out the pod drives before, just see if he liked the pods. And so we went for a ride, and we got done, and I said, "Well, what'd you think about the pods?" And he said, "Well, pods are all right." He said, "But I really like the boat." So we began going back and forth and developed a design for what he wanted, and it took almost 2 years to get it dialed into what he wanted before we got started. And but I got started on that boat and
built the band back together and back at it.
Put some of the band back together and built that one, and still had some refit work going.
Which that's still running today.
Yeah, I mean, I try to keep at least one refit project going all the time.
And then, how many builds do you normally try to have at a given time?
I like to have 2. We just finished one, and we've got one that's about halfway, and looking for the one to fill the slot of the one that just left.
Yeah. So Cold Motion's the most recent one that went out the door. And I think based on social media standards, I think there's a lot of people that are excited about it. I know when I saw it, I was like, that's a pretty sweet ride. But anything in particular that you want to call out about that boat, or that you felt was unique or nice, or just all around Caison yacht?
And it's just got everything, you know. I mean, we got 70 foot of stuff in a 60 foot boat, and you know, it was definitely a project that took a lot of thought to be able to squeeze in what we squeezed in. Performance wise, she's incredible. I've rowed a lot of boats, but that boat jumps out of the hole better than any boat I've ever been on. You know, she's pretty fast, maybe not as fast as some of them, but you know, she's only got 1,700 aside, and she's still 42 and a half, 43 knots.
Which, that was hole number what for you?
15.
15. You get back on many of them after you see them leave and go in the water?
Oh yeah.
And I've got to assume you're still bitten by that marlin bug you had once upon a time.
Oh yeah, I fish most of the tournaments. I fish with Pig Rig, which is the first convertible that I built. Finished her in 2004.
And Pirate's Pride was your first one, right?
That was my charter boat. I sold it, and it became the Islander, and was based out of Moorhead. And then the guy that bought it from me ended up selling it to Bill Douglas, who owns it now, and it's called the Pirate's Pride. And we did a complete refit on it when he bought it.
So what about technology's changing, the way that even building has slightly changed? I mean, it's a significant change from how it was before, but has it been the process of going through the evolution of some of this new technologies coming out and everything else, and the engines in these puppies are definitely different? Has that been an easy process for you to go through the changes and be agile, or has it been some, because I've got to imagine these builds take 18 months, longer, shorter, but it's still a significant amount of time. Things are constantly changing. How has that been for you as a builder, with customers pulling you, people, manufacturers of different parts, I'm sure, pulling you?
Oh well, I mean, we've embraced it. Sometimes to the good, sometimes to the bad. I mean, I've one of the few custom builders that has built a pod boat from every pod manufacturer.
Really?
You know, we've done Volvo boat, we've done a Zeus boat, and we've done a ZF pod boat. I got told by one of the pod guys that I was considered the custom pod expert, and I'm like, God, I didn't really want to have that title.
Notorious in ways you didn't want to be.
Yeah, but I mean, it's all worked out. We've had good luck with them, and but you know, we're networked electrical systems, and we've done it all. And you know, if somebody wants something, we can figure out how to do it for them.
So when someone's in, there's not a lot of custom builders out there. There's a lot of custom builders out there, and when you see customers coming in, and I'm sure they ask, but they're also gathering their own data along the way too. What do you want people to know that's the Caison difference, or that is different about what you guys are doing versus the other folks?
Well, I think the biggest difference between me and everybody else is that when you have a problem and you call, I'm the one that answers the phone. And if you got a problem on Sunday afternoon, I answer the phone.
But you're going to Florida this weekend, right? I know it's for a new ride, but I'm sure you get a phone call or two at a random time. If you had the 2 a.m., like, hopefully not.
Well, I'm a pretty sound sleeper, so if they'd have to try 3 or 4 times probably to wake me up at 2 a.m. But between 6 in the morning and 9 at night, I'm pretty much on call.
Yeah, you called me this morning pretty early, so it was good. What about fishing spots? Like favorite tournaments to fish in, favorite place to fish?
Well, I'm kind of partial to here, but I love fishing out of Hatteras. You know, the early spring marlin tournaments out of Hatteras are always fun. You know, the Big Rock, I love fishing the Big Rock. the custom shootout. Fished it for the first time last year. That was a fun tournament.
What did you like about it?
Everybody's in one spot, and it's all custom. They limit the field to around 60 boats, which seems like a pretty small number, but when you consider the number of custom sport fish boats there are on the east coast of the United States. We sat there last year, Randy and Michael Rybovich and Roy Merritt, John Bayless, and we all got to talking about it. Well, we couldn't come up with more than about 700 custom sport fish that all of us, I think there were 13 builders there that we could come up with that we'd ever built, and our mentors too. So you figure almost 10% of all the custom boats, and it's like we're there.
Now, Randy played an important part early on. Have he or other people kind of continue to serve as a mentor for you in the business?
Well, like I said, we're all kind of a brotherhood, and I can't say that we have communications on a daily basis or even a monthly basis, but I think they all know that if they need to know something, I know that they can call, and I pretty much feel the same way about most of the other builders. I mean, we're, like I said, we're friendly competitors.
Yeah. So what's the favorite part of the business for you? Is it being able to interact with customers? Is it still building the boats and getting in there every day? What's the aspect that gets you up in the morning?
I think it's the end product. I mean, it's just being able to go to these places that people dream of going to and fishing on something that I created, I thought of, basically come from my desire, to do this.
How many do you want to build?
I don't know. I'm 56. I figure I've got at least a good 10 or 15 years left in me. But I don't want to be building 5 or 6 or 10 at a time. I'm happy with 1 or 2, and
do you think you'll keep it in this kind of 1, 2, 3 range?
I think we at one point we had 4 going in this building, and that was too much. We were all over top of each other, and you couldn't really spread out and do things like you ought to do them, and plus the headache of managing that many people again. I was just like, I'm gonna keep it about where I'm at. It'll fluctuate. You gotta go with the punches, and but that, like I said, I think we got a few more years in us.
Wow. Y'all are definitely a fun crew to come drop in on, because it's like you walk in the door and every time as you're meted by this normally massive boat right in the bay, and you did build the 38 center console. Do you like building those? Do you primarily like the sporty?
That was a fun project, and it was quicker project than the big boats, but I'm not an outboard guy. I'm a diesel guy. I grew up on outboard, so and I had fun with that 38. I fished it for a year. We had fun with it. But at the end of the day, I love a big convertible.
Do you keep a ride to fish on yourself, or do you normally just hitch a ride with other folks?
I mainly ride with somebody else. I can pretty much any tournament that one of my boats in, if I want to fish, I can be there. So it's
good fringe benefit of the job.
Yeah, it's a really good benefit. I've got to go fish on my boats in Bermuda and the Dominican and Mexico and the West Coast, and this boat's going to Kona. I got the bases covered.
Get on, hop on the plane, and you'll be catching some.
That's right.
Which have you had any particular catches that are like pretty wild either? Because have you? What's the top finish in the tournament so far?
We won a couple tournaments.
Which ones?
We won the DU tournament with the first convertible we built straight out of the gate. It was I was still screwing gas lifts on the mezzanine hatches on the way to the tournament, and we won that in 04. We've won the Cape Fear tournament a couple times. In fact, we've placed second and placed first every other year for the last 4 years.
That's awesome. I've got to imagine the thrill. That's pretty rewarding.
Yeah, we were the Cape Fear 2 years ago. We won with a 630. I think 637, and I was running the boat, so that was exciting.
It is crazy now with social media. You know, you go and not only do you get to see a little bit more behind the scenes of what's going on with the boat builders and everyone's supposed to fish, but some of these fish that are popping up that you see on social media now are just insane. I think I was talking to Ricky now a month or two ago, and they just pulled that one off in New Zealand. It was a monster. And then I go and I pull up the other day out of Oregon Inlet, and somebody's pulling up a big old tuna, and it definitely makes me want to have the itch to go out there. And
oh yeah.
But cool. Well, I appreciate you sharing your story today with me, and I think it's been a pleasure to be able to work with you guys in the parameters that we have today, and I hope we keep going. And you guys are building some awesome boats, so I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So.